Hello and welcome to our August garden tour. For today's garden tour, we're actually going to do a pickings. So you'll see exactly what a normal day picking veggies in our garden looks like, so you can get an idea of how much we're actually getting every single day in this garden. So come along. Okay, so first off, in our garden, you can definitely tell that our grapevines are doing really well. They're climbing up our fence exactly how we wanted. And we also applied some additional netting behind them just to keep away the deer, because they do actually like grapevines. You can also see that we have a little bit of grapes growing down here, which is really exciting. And our zinnias are really popping off over here. Every day we do like to come in and pick a few, and these plants are actually really great because as you pick them, they continue to grow flowers. So it's something that you can enjoy all year long once they actually do start to, or all season long, once they do start to blossom. And then you can have them on your kitchen or give them out to friends, neighbors, family, anything like that, which is just the best part of growing flowers. As you can see over here, our table is looking quite a bit barren, as it was the first garden tour that we did this year, and that's because we're doing a lot of our plants and starters we are selling at our farm stand, and we've been doing a sale testing out different pricing. Right now, because it's the end of season, we've been doing $2 per any plant that's there, and we've been selling around 3 to 5 plants per day, so it's been a really great success. And we've also been posting a lot about this on some of our social channels. So something that you could try at your home or where you live and start to make a little bit of a profit, as well as share some of your plants with your family and friends. Another thing that we have over here is actually our Thuja green giant tree starters. These have been doing really great this season as well. We do have them outside, and I'll link down below a whole video on how you can actually create your own green giant clippings, and we're going to be using this as a privacy barrier once they do actually start to root in there, which is really exciting. I also want to stop and point out that we are adding some new beds. You can see here a metal bed that we just put together, and we're going to be going over some of the pros and cons of wood raised beds versus metal raised beds. So if you are thinking of adding one of these beds to your garden, you definitely are going to want to subscribe and stay tuned, because that video is going to be coming out next, and it has some really good insight on what exactly the pros are if you decide to go metal versus wood, and why we've made the decision on how we're expanding out our garden. Okay, over here is where we have our tomatillos growing. Now, Chris loves to make a tomatillo hot sauce, and we have right now around 12 bottles that he's made, just testing out a bunch of different recipes right now. So we're going through a lot of different variations, but you can really tell when a tomatillo is ready to be picked once it actually starts to expand outside of its outer shell. So pretty cool here. So we'll add some of these. Chris is gonna love to be experimenting in the kitchen with some of these different tomatillo recipes and variations that he's been trying. If you're interested in learning how we're testing out and making these hot sauces, definitely comment down below, and we can add some of that to our channel as well, because they're mighty tasty. Some of them also aren't even that spicy, which I'm not a spice person, so that's winning for me. And over here, we did uproot some of our planters here. So our back planter was filled with baby's breath. We uprooted that last month and actually started filling it with sunflowers, and these are really starting to take over. Something that you want to know when you are planting sunflowers is the closer that you plant them together, the smaller the flower is going to be, so they're not going to grow as grandiose as some of the sunflowers that we have in the back of our garden that are about 8 feet tall right now, maybe even taller. I haven't taken a tape measure to them yet, but they're very large. But in the front here, we wanted to go smaller so they're not gigantic. So we planted the seeds a lot closer together, and this is actually going to make the plant a lot smaller. We also have here our sweet potatoes, which you can see we did just mow in here, so some of these vines are picked up, but our goal of having these vines just come off and a beautiful, nice draping within our garden is definitely working. And something that you want to think about when you're growing sweet potatoes or any potatoes is the leaves are going to be really telling of what's actually growing beneath. So as your leaves start to change colors or die out, it's a sign that the potatoes down below are going to be ready. So as long as they're going good, you're in good. Once they start to change, you're gonna wanna get in there, get your hands dirty, and start picking them. Okay, so I just got a few tomatillos for now. There's a lot more in there, but we don't need to get them all. Okay, over here we have a few different things going on. So for some of our ground coverage, we have cantaloupe and watermelon going on. The cantaloupe are just flowering right now at this time, as well as the watermelon in this bed. We planted them a little bit later than some of the other watermelon that we're gonna see. We also have some great different varieties of peppers. A few of them are really starting to grow out. Something that we did here was really make sure that we were clipping out any of the fruit at the beginning stages so they would grow larger, lusher, and provide more fruits now during the season instead of early on. We also have a great amount of kale going on over here. What I have been doing is actually clipping these back and putting them in my smoothies, as well as drying them out and making a kale powder. So there's a few different ways that you can actually preserve kale leaves, and our main use is really salads and in our smoothies. We've also done some kale chips, which are really delicious. You can make kale chips by literally just taking everything off of here and sticking them in the oven with some oil, salt, and they're really tasty, yummy, and pretty nutritious treat. So I'll grab some of this. And again, making sure when you do clip your kale back that you're clipping from the sides here. As you can see, the stalk's getting pretty large and beefy, but it's always growing from the center, so my kale doesn't actually stop and die because I'm picking it out on the sides. Over here, we have 7 shishito plants. I actually just picked a bunch last night and we had them with some of our dinner. A really great recipe for shishito peppers are gonna be just taking your peppers, flicking off the end of them, and then you can blister them in a pot with just oil. So blister them in a nice oil. And then we have a really great dipping sauce that we use with it. I can also include that down below. It's just a mayo-based dipping sauce. It's a really delicious and a really great appetizer, but I don't think we could have it every night. So I'm gonna leave these here, let them keep growing, and we're gonna go to the other pepper garden right behind me, which does have some banana peppers, and we wanna start pickling those. So I'm gonna grab some of those back there. Like I've told you before, we do have our chickens on the other side of the fence over here. So what's really great is if you do accidentally get some scraps in your pickings, or when you're doing your kale, if you want to take the stem off, you can actually do this right in the garden and then put your scraps right over by the chickens. They love you, and you can create your own composting for later in the year when we're ready to recompost everything. Whew, it's getting hot over here. So I went ahead and pulled up this netting. This is really to keep our watermelons safe. Last year we had some rabbits or little animals getting in here, but you can see this watermelon, oh my gosh, it's really heavy. Woo. It's not ripe just yet, but it is getting there, and we have some really big Mondo watermelons in here. Something that we didn't do this year that I want to do is in the future put some baskets underneath here. This is really going to help with making sure that you don't have big light spots or bruises on your watermelons. Something that we didn't do this year also is probably cutting back some of these. This is our first time actually having so much success with our watermelons that we just wanted to see what would happen here. And they're doing really great. There's also another one right next to it that's also really large. So I'm excited to see how these taste once they're ready. We probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, over 7 really large watermelons. And we have a barbecue coming up in like a week and a half. So hopefully they're ready by then. Our basket's getting full. We have our tomatillos, we have our banana peppers, and some kale. The kale's taking up a lot of room, but let's continue on and see what else we can grab to today's pickings. This bed was primarily our lettuce bed at the beginning of the year. A lot of the kale, we are still getting some goodness on. Some of it, there's been some bugs that have unfortunately gotten to it, but we pulled up some of the lettuces in here. We put in a bunch of different sunflowers, accidentally dropped the bag in here, so There's a lot of them very close together. What I like about this bed is we did have this marigold in the center, and it's really blown up now that we pulled some of the lettuces. So now it's just like a really pretty flower that's helping with some of the pollination in the garden, and it just looks really nice in this bed. So I'm loving that over here, and this is just becoming kind of like a flower slash lettuce bed. I'm also gonna pick some of our lettuce over here so we can add this to a nice salad later on today. All right, over here is what was our tomato forest, and it's getting very foresty. We did not have enough trellises, and we went to Home Depot and Lowe's, and all of theirs were rusty. So now this is just like a hodgepodge tomato falls. We have a lot of tomatillos. Some of them, honestly, we didn't even get too fast enough because they broke open a little bit. So this might end up going to our chickens. But yeah, we'll just pick some tomatoes here that we can add to a nice salad later on. So this is our nice asparagus patch. We have one over here as well as one back down over there. We're letting these just kind of do their own thing so we can get some nice chunky asparaguses. So asparagus, usually what you'll do is they'll kind of start off pretty small. This is some that I planted this year. So really, really tiny, really thin. And then as they get older, they are gonna get bigger. This is what they look like if you don't pick them, and they're essentially just going to seed over here. But what we'll do is we'll let these stay. Once they're kind of done, start to get yellow and they're done, we'll cut these down, lay them on top, and let it just compost on top. And then next year, we'll have had these for a couple of years, and we'll be able to actually harvest them and start eating the asparagus in there. Over here is our corn and bean box. The amount of string beans that come out of here is insane. We could eat string beans every single night for dinner. It's wild. We've probably gotten 7 pounds, maybe even more. I'm looking at Chris behind the camera right now because he's the one that's been like measuring a lot of these things. But so many string beans for days. So I definitely think if you are a family of 2 or 4, if you do like a bean plant for 2 bean plants for every 1 person, you would have enough beans. We went crazy, and we definitely are gonna have a lot of them. And then our corn right now, we have a few corn heads per husk, so it's going pretty well over here, and you can see it's really nice because they're growing taller than all the beans, but there's some ground coverage over here to keep the nutrients in the soil. And what's really nice about beans is they actually give nitrogen into the soil, so it's able to feed all of the nutrients that the corn needs in order to grow nice and tall and give a good nutrients back into the soil that you really need, especially as these hot summer days are kind of beating down on the soil and taking away a lot of the nutrients. Okay, so these sunflowers are doing really, really well. We planted these ones a lot farther apart, and I'm really excited about everything that's going on up there. They're really starting to bring some nice character, color, and beauty into this garden, and I'm really excited to see them just keep going. So that's really exciting. Down below, we do have some carrots that are coming up. What you can do is, if you want to know how your carrots are doing, the best way to understand how well your carrots are growing is you're going to start to see the tops of the carrots come out of the soil when they're ready. So once you do see that, that is a really good sign. If you don't wait for that, they're probably not going to be as big as you'd want them to be. So I definitely wait until you start seeing them kind of appear there. We also have some nice ground coverage with cucumbers, both pickling cucumbers and some of the cucumbers that you can just munch on as well. We've been making a bunch of pickles, and we have a lot of great recipes. So definitely I'll link some of the pickle recipes down below that we've been sharing and really love. We have a nice 24-hour pickle recipe that's delicious, and it lets you get to your pickles as soon as you want. I'm gonna leave the pickles in there, but I'll throw up a picture now of some of the pickles that we've already picked because just so many. Some of the cucumbers that we've already picked. As you continue this way, we have some potatoes. These were just from our kitchen. We saw that there were spores on them, popped them in there. We have some nice dill over here, which is really great for those pickles, and also a really nice companion plant to plant with your cucumbers. Now over here, you can see we actually have a cucumber beetle that got into our garden. So once you see cucumber beetles, I'll throw a picture up of them right here. Get rid of them as soon as you can. Chris tries to spend as much time actually outside squashing them because there's not that much of a great solution. Once you have them, they're just replicating so fast. They're really hard to eradicate. So the best you can do to not get them at the beginning, doing companion plants with them and trying to get rid of them as fast as you can is gonna help. But now we're just kind of finishing up all the last cucumbers that we can and seeing what we can do here. But beyond that, we do have some more sweet potatoes in this garden, as well as some dill and carrots. So we're seeing how that goes. And then on our other side over here is our zucchini and squash garden. We have a bunch of zucchini that's come out of here. Like, we're just cooking so much zucchini. I don't even know what to do with it. We've made so many different recipes, from zucchini fritters to zucchini bread to just zucchini with dinner on the side, and giving away as much as we can, but it's a really good problem to have. Okay, so this looks like a really sad bed, but what we've actually done is we started off with 6 strawberry plants in here, and a lot of them created runners and then kind of just like jumped around. So now we have so many strawberry plants. So we went ahead, just clipped them back. We're gonna add, actually remove some of these, put them into some pots and try to sell some of the runners that we got out in our stand. But we're also gonna pull some of this back so that we don't have just an overrun strawberry patch, but just enough so that we're getting enough fruit. We got so much strawberries. I have a huge like gallon bag in the freezer because there's just so many that we had to throw them into the freezer, but still a really good problem. Again, we have some of the melons on the side here that are growing really, really well. Really happy about that. And in our back section over there, we have a lot of melons and pumpkins starting up, some fruits actually starting to show, so really excited about that. So these are our 2 very fruitful eggplant plants, and we've already pulled a bunch for an eggplant parm tomorrow, so I'm not gonna pull any more, but the amount of fruit that's coming off of here is insane. I don't know, something about this bed is just a winning strategy, and we kept it in here from last year, so don't hate it, we love it. I forgot, we have one more addition from last month, and that is our spaghetti squash. I love spaghetti squash, it's delicious. Items of that, we're just kind of waiting for them to get ready. They will turn yellow when they're ready, so we'll know that they're ready then, kind of in their infancy. But behind me, I do have my tomato patch. What we're doing here is we have some really large tomatoes, and we're gonna be cooking them down into a sauce. We're also gonna be freezing some of them, as well as just having some on salads. So a lot of really great, exciting things from here. Something that I've noticed this year, and I've seen throughout a lot of gardens, is a lot of people's tomatoes are taking a lot longer to turn. So if you start to see that they have some slight coloration, like this one still has some green, I can still go ahead and set this into our kitchen windowsill. But you want to wait until they actually start to turn some red, yellow, or whatever color your tomato is going to turn before you actually pick them, or else they may not turn. Got a bunch of our little tomatoes here. Again, I'm just gonna pick a few that are ready. We have a lot in the kitchen. We probably have around 6 pounds in the kitchen already that we're gonna turn into some sauce. So I'm just gonna grab a few more that are ready, and we can add that to our sauce that we're gonna cook down. Now, this is our pickings for today, and honestly, I could have done so much more. We got some tomatoes, tomatillos, beans, kale, lettuce, squash, cucumbers, just so many goodies. I'm so excited about what this season's brought to us, and really all it takes is just daily care and love in your garden, making sure that you're pulling the weeds and you're watering regularly, and you'll get the same amount of growth that we've had. I hope that this walkthrough of the garden was exciting. We'll probably have 1 or 2 more for this year, so definitely stay tuned, and we'll see you guys again next time. Bye.